Here comes Sims pedaling into the paint, leaning and hitting. A 10-0 run to start the game for Indiana, and Minnesota wanted a timeout. Caitlin Clark knew it. But the bigger story wasn't about the hot start. It was about what Kelsey Mitchell said afterward that had her teammates buzzing. After Indiana's third straight win, without 5 key players, including Clark, Mitchell's words summed up this team's mindset heading into the playoffs. She didn't see the Fever as underdogs. She saw them as contenders rewriting the script in 22-5. This was a group many thought couldn't survive without Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Colson, Khloe Bby, and Aari McDonald. 5 rotation players sidelined. For most teams, that's a death sentence, especially in the middle of a playoff race. But instead of folding, Indiana reinvented itself. They didn't just scrape by. They won 3 straight, including a statement victory over Minnesota. And suddenly, the Fever looked alive again. It was more than just a box score win. It was identity. Stephanie White drilled the message into her players. Be where your feet are. Don't obsess over who's missing. Don't get distracted by the chaos. Focus on who's available and compete like your season depends on it. And that's exactly what happened. From the opening tip against the Lynx, Indiana imposed their will. They hit shots, grabbed rebounds, dove for loose balls, and swarmed on defense. It wasn't always pretty, but it was relentless. They stunned Minnesota with energy and resilience. Refusing to play like a wounded team, that win pushed Indiana above .500 for the first time since 2015. But more than that, it showed resilience had become their identity. Instead of being defined by injuries, they were defined by their response. And leading that response was Kelsey Mitchell. With Clark out, the question was who would step up to carry the load. Mitchell didn't just step up, she exploded into a record-setting season. She became the first Fever player in history to average over 20 points per game across a season. That's not just numbers on a stat sheet. That's rewriting the record books for a franchise that hadn't sniffed real offensive firepower in nearly a decade. She did it while facing constant traps, double teams, and defensive schemes designed to wear her down. Instead of forcing tough shots, Mitchell matured. She knew when to attack, when to move the ball, and when to trust her teammates. That balance turned role players into difference makers. Aaliyah Boston anchored the paint, tying her own rebounding records and forcing defenses to collapse every time she touched the ball. Odyssey Sims came off the bench like a spark plug, dropping 15 points and calling the stretch a fresh start. Aerial Powers hit back-to-back threes that silenced Minnesota's run and flipped momentum. Natasha Howard quietly stabilized the front court with efficiency on both ends. Lexi Hall became indispensable on defense, switching across multiple positions and still chipping in offensively. By the final horn, 5 players hit double figures. That wasn't survival basketball. That was depth, chemistry, and trust. Even without Clark, this team found a way to spread the load and stay dangerous. And Clark herself never disappeared. She was right there on the bench, hyping her teammates, talking through plays, and making her presence felt. That energy made her absence feel less like a void and more like a setup for a stronger return. Mitchell's words afterwards sealed the moment. She looked around at her teammates and said, "You've seen our growth." For words that resonated because they weren't about her. They were about all of them. About a team written off as dead, now refusing to crumble. And instead building belief brick by brick. It's that shift in culture that's made Indiana dangerous. Mitchell's leadership on the floor, Boston's dominance in the paint, and White's steady hand have turned what should have been a lost season into a foundation for a playoff run. It's why the Fever aren't satisfied with just making the postseason. They want more. They want to test themselves against the best, not years from now, but right now. The MVP campaign for Mitchell is more than marketing hype. It's recognition of what she's carried. Night after night, with defenses draped all over her, she produced. She led her team through doubt and injury chaos, never slowing down. And in the locker room, she gave her teammates words that turned into fuel. That's why this 3-game stretch matters. It wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to be possible. But the Fever flipped the script. Instead of sinking, they surged. Instead of being written off, They wrote themselves back in. And with the playoffs about to begin, this team isn't just alive, they're thriving. Indiana's first winning record since 2015 isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of a new one. Mitchell's voice, Boston's presence, Clark's looming return, and the bench's firepower all point to a team building something real. The Fever aren't just here to participate. They're here to contend. This season was supposed to be about setbacks, but instead, it's become a story of growth, grit, and belief. The Indiana Fever turned doubt into fire, and now the playoffs are their chance to prove the league has underestimated them for the last time. If you're fired up for the playoffs, drop it in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss what comes next.